correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience.
Welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm here with my friend Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve. And we're going to talk some RPGs. But before that, we're going to talk about how we roll.
Yes, How We Roll is another podcast here on the D20 Radio Network. It's hosted by Daryl, Nick, and Robert. It's a really cool show. They do a lot of different, kind of discussion talks about different aspects of gaming, both as players, GMs, and they kind of have a really unique perspective because all three of them belong to kind of this same core group of gamers, and so they all play and GM with/for each other a decent amount. And having run for that crew a few times down at Gamer Nation Con, I can tell they're a lot of fun. They're great people. I had Daryl on the show a while back. I think Daryl and Robert were also on once. But yeah, they're great fun, great people, good show, lots of good topics. I don't remember what their last show was, and by the time this comes out, it probably will be different than what it is if I go look it up, so I'm not going to bother. But they do a lot of stuff, be it around, different aspects of, be it running games or playing games, and because there's three of them, you get a lot of different perspective on how to handle some of the things, or one of them will sometimes explain how they approach something, and then the other two can give you the perspective of that same idea from the player side, which is really neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can check them out. They're on all the podcatchers, and they actually do a YouTube version as well. But yeah, good fun, good people, good games. So check out How We Roll, and check out the rest of the D20 Radio Network too, because there's a lot of other good podcasts.
Absolutely. Well, you also had our topic for tonight. So you were watching the Seth Skorkowski video, who you were talking to in person at PGX a while back at. But
yeah, I did. I got to meet Seth in person at PGX this year, which is now a little over a month ago. But I stumbled across a video of his recently, and I don't know if it's a newer video or not, but he was talking about secrets at the table and whether they're good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. And by that, obviously, he's not talking about the GM having secrets from the players. We all know that's going to happen. He was honestly talking more about the impact of player secrets from other players, particularly. And, I know you and I played actually at PGX, played Vastgrim together, and your character was the infected, which in Vastgrim is a kind of a significant thing. And obviously, I think in the spirit of that game, part of the fun is you keeping that hidden
as best you can.
Obviously in an in-character sense, but out of character, that's a hard one to not play, not metagame from.
Yeah.
But I wonder, some other things like, is your character a runaway noble or something, a wanted fugitive in disguise, and
why are the police constantly after us?
Right.
I didn't do anything in particular.
Seth's video was talking about.
Yeah. Oh no, go
Seth's
ahead.
video was talking more about like what he was calling open role play versus closed role play, where in open role play, most of the table knows most of the things about the rest of the table out of character, as opposed to in character. In character, obviously, and so it creates a weird, or can create weird situations, I guess. But go ahead with whatever it was you were thinking.
Yeah. So I've been on and off as job changes and life changes and things have been happening. I have been playing Triangle Agency, which has been an absolute blast. We've talked on and off about it before. Things I really endure about Triangle Agency is it is a it is so interesting because I don't know what anybody else's character sheet looks like, nor do I want to know what anybody else's character sheet looks like. I don't want to see it
Mm-hmm.
because I will be penalized if I see what your character sheet looks like. If I learn what you can do, I'm in trouble. I don't want that. And so it makes roleplay really interesting because I'm doing things where I'm like, okay, I'm not openly doing this, or this, but I am like playing it close to my chest and doing little things here and there, like showing off here and there. And so it's kind of just a fun, like we were just talking about. That's one of those things where like somebody across the table from me has an ability that's a secret that they have. They maybe don't want to show those cards, so I can't guess what they're doing because somebody in Triangle Agency could be like an anomaly. Okay, that's an instant. You're supposed to take those out. It would be like showing up as a creature in oh no, Delta Green.
Okay.
Sorry, I know that was rambly, but
That
that
no,
was
no,
where
no,
my
I get
thought
it.
went.
Well, I think that too. That does play into, what is the very nature of the game you're playing. If you're playing, I know I haven't read it a whole lot, but Cold City intentionally has mechanics because you're supposed to play as agents of different nations, and each nation has their own agenda. And so that's,
Right,
so to speak, those secrets are baked in, much like it sounds like Triangle Agency, and the core of kind of what Seth was talking about in his video, and I think it's worth bringing up just as a thought point for our discussion is, and he pointed to a Alfred Hitchcock quote, and I don't remember it specifically, but basically Hitchcock was talking about how when making a film, 10 minutes of suspense is better than 10 seconds of complete and utter surprise. And I think that gets into the question of when we're playing games, yes, we are the authors of the story, but we are also as a table the audience. And so, are you playing, you know you get what I'm going at, like,
yeah. How are you enjoying the game?
yeah, I guess that's part of it, and that plays into this discussion, I think, because in a sense, part of the game with Triangle Agency or Cold City, or probably even a lot of espionage games, is that the other players have these agendas, and part of the game is the fun of the game is trying to figure them out, but at the same
Right,
time,
absolutely.
in your average fantasy game, if your character is acting strangely at times, and I think this also goes to, how do we play things out? Example Seth gave was he was in a play test for an adventure, and he made some comment, in character comment about worrying about going to a specific place because there was a lot of junkies and he didn't want to get shot up. And one of the other characters, unbeknownst to him, had a background as a former addict. And so that player's in character response kind of made Seth wonder, okay, does this player have some sort of background where this is a touchy subject and we don't want to go there? And as it turns out, they found out later, no, it was all in character, but not knowing where that line was, in his opinion, he thought hurt the role play in that circumstance.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I could see how that could be. That's where you almost have to have that's where I recolored safety cards, but I don't know. A lot of people just use an X card.
No, no, I get, yeah, that's a valid point.
Because if you'd have had that implemented, you could have been like, okay, yeah, I'm good. This is actually just a character thing.
No, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean,
but not to derail, yeah, the core idea being that not knowing that information, but at the time I think it's
well,
had he
I
known
I
that
will.
they were role playing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, finish your thought because I'm probably going to send us off down another tangent.
Okay. Had he known that they were role playing, again, I think he would have probably played off of it more. And that's just somebody, even in character, learning information about another character. And I don't think, I think it's interesting in fantasy games where we do just, here's my character sheet, just take a look at it and see what you think. And it's like, well, while that's fun for like tactical games, for something that's maybe a little bit more narrative or story driven, unless you have a narrative reason, in my opinion, that the characters say, okay, for example, a party that has lived and worked together for 10, 15, 20 years for the same, they've lived in the same building, they've worked together, the Scooby Gang, right?
Right.
They know each other's business, right? Like Shaggy couldn't show up tomorrow with a different haircut and the Scooby Gang would be like, "What is going on with you?" You know what I'm saying?
Raggy.
Now, if it's year one, the mystery machine is like a Geo Metro, like we're starting from the beginning, well, then maybe they don't know everything about their business. Then maybe you don't know everything about the people that you're working with. But if you have an advanced group, then yeah, it would make sense that everybody would know everything about each other.
That's true. Yeah. No, I think context is important. Um, I think the other thing that has gotten me a little bit into this headspace was I, for something to put on for background noise, more or less, have been half watching The Blacklist, the James Spader series.
Oh, you and my dad. Listen. I'm just joking, but yeah, my dad is obsessed with it. He was so mad. But go ahead.
The layers in that show are what makes it interesting. And I think what makes it even more compelling is that you know the layers are there, but you don't know the end game. And so it's this combination, again, because of perspective, that, you know, as an audience member, there's plots afoot in character. To take it to a role playing game, you may know that your rogue is a dastardly little sob, but that doesn't mean that that rogue isn't loyal to your group. You know what I mean? And those levels of
Right.
to me that makes fun dynamic. Excuse me, fun dynamics. But I think too, some of that goes to, comfort level between the players and as you say, if, safety tools, etc. Because I think it's also easier to play a more nuanced, layered character in a group that you're familiar with as players because okay, if you and I are playing at a table together and my character is being a royal asshole to your character, because you and I know each other that that's my character being an asshole, not me. But
Right,
if
exactly.
we meet, we've been meeting once a month for the last 6 months at a local game store and playing together, you might not know that. And so you're wondering, uh, is Steve being an asshole or is whatever my character's name is being an asshole?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's and that's one of those things where yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say when you're, haven't seen somebody or haven't played with somebody in you know, sometimes forever.
Hmm.
Um I think if you're ever, in a situation like that though and you're truly like, "Oh wait, is this not cool?" And if you were to and I'm just being, realistic here, but if you were to ever just go, "Hey, is this not cool with you? Like, what's going on?" "Oh, no, I'm role playing." "Oh, I'm sorry. All right, yeah, cool. Now we know." Okay.
No, and that's fair, right? Like, I
Um,
think that's a good step.
but for me, it's like, yeah, I think adding that little extra layer of role playing where you are holding secrets, you are holding cards to your chest is dependent on narrative, and I think it's also like I don't know, it is a fun game sometimes to be like, "Oh, you don't know everything I can do."
No, yeah, and yeah, I guess it's just the thought of and you also at that point, if you're being open about a lot of those things with the table, you have to also be able to operate in character without that knowledge,
Right.
which sometimes is easier said than done.
Yeah, and I think some people are better at that than others as well. There are some people that really can't separate meta knowledge and character knowledge.
Hmm.
I've I've played with a couple. Um, and then, understanding the difference between, oh, this is meta knowledge and this is regular knowledge, and separating those two things is one of those things where that's also a buy-in. If somebody doesn't care, they don't want to buy in, they're not going to do that. So it's interesting. And it is one of those things that, yeah, it does, again, it adds that little extra layer of and be, you know, it can add an extra layer of intrigue. And like I said, the intrigue, buy-in, all of that is attention at the table. And keeping attention at the table and telling the story collaboratively is what it's all about. I mean, at the end of the day.
No, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it's very situational. I mean, I think there are things that, you know, and as it happens right now in the two campaigns that I'm involved in, I'm actually playing roguish types in both games. So it in a sense it hits a little harder because, I'm kind of the shady, not necessarily operating on the periphery of the group, but I'm supposed to be the shady guy.
Right.
And so, like, what does that mean, and how do I play that in a manner that conveys what I want the character to be and is enjoyable for everyone else as well?
Right. And I can understand that. It's it's hard sometimes to be like, oh, well, yeah, I also robbed 15 people on my way here, and I know some stuff that you really shouldn't know. You need to, I think sometimes with a roguish character like that, you just need to drip feed information
Hmm.
and leave the breadcrumbs to encourage people to maybe like wonder about that stuff.
Yeah. No, and like I feel like in some context too, right? Does it depend on who is the character you're portraying? Is that character going to be very guarded? Like we talked about with, be it Triangle Agency, Delta Green, anything with a espan espionage feel to it, like those secrets are part of the genre.
Right.
Like look, the A team is funny, but the fact that they all get along all the time pretty much, other than maybe BA, but well, it it makes it a lot more slapsticky.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know if that's the right word, but like, as opposed to, I don't know another series off the top of my head that's a bit like that where it's teams. We'll go the agency, I think is what it was called. The unit, that's what it was, the unit. Where there are, so to speak, secret subplots going on between this person and environment and that person and environment, and I don't know, it just feels much more richer and more full.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, is it I think, I don't know that there is an answer to it. I think it's just, it maybe this is something you just have a discussion with, in your session zero, or when you bring a new person into the table and be like, "Hey, look, this is this is that." You know, I think it's probably good to at least be upfront if you're playing a character who is abrasive or, you know, mildly antagonistic, that maybe,
Yeah.
when you get a new person, for example, one of my favorite characters to hate in all of television is Frank Burns. You know what I mean? If you're
Yes.
playing a Frank Burns character, I think you owe it to the rest of the table to be up front and say, look, I'm playing the largely harmless pseudo antagonist here.
Largely
You know what I
harmless.
mean? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nothing was ever mean spirited in the grand scheme of things. Like, none of the friction between Frank Burns and the rest of the unit ever really affected them doing their job.
No.
But
No.
it was there. And that's, I guess, what I mean by like
Yeah.
harmless pseudo antagonist. The
Yeah. I
character
see what you're
wasn't
saying.
compromising the task, but he was being annoying. And if you're going to do that, I feel like you probably do owe it to your table to say, hey, look, this character I'm going to play is well, he's kind of a prick, but that's the character, not me.
Right. Yeah, and I get that. And that is definitely something where you have to disclose. I think just being outright with them and saying, "Hey, look, my character is going to be antagonistic and grouchy and you're just going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry, not sorry."
Hmm. Well, but I think
And I don't think
if
anybody's going to be like, "Oh,
but I think if you're upfront with that from the jump, then it becomes something to play off of, not something to wonder is Steve mad at me this week? What did I do that pissed Steve off?
right, right, absolutely." Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, I get that. And that's interesting and I think that's fair. Um, yeah, I'm like running out of thoughts here. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it is the witching hour or better. Uh, um, yeah,
Um,
I don't know. Like I said, I just think it's an interesting thing to think about, and I think it's something worth bringing up, out of character to just address how do we want to play this, and it doesn't have to be all in or not in at all.
all out.
There can
Yeah,
be
exactly.
somewhere in the middle, you know, and
Yeah,
so
I absolutely agree. Yeah. Um, no, sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt.
no, you're good. Um, so what else you got? You got anything else gaming on the mind of late?
Of late gaming. I really don't. I know I'm sorry. We've been terrible with these episodes being short. Folks. I haven't. I've been listening to a little bit of the new Critical Role. Have you listened to any of it?
Actually put the first episode on, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. Listened to it. Um, it's different. Obviously, with Mulligan taking the GM's chair and Matt playing and what appears to be a more fluid cast situation as opposed to the traditional party dynamic they've always had. Um,
And the cast is like huge, isn't it?
it is, but the way, at least based on the first episode, they aren't all
Yeah,
there
they're
all
just
the
in and
time.
out.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, which is different, and I think
Yeah.
it's a valid thing to show for certain. Um,
Let me ask you this: how are you listening to it or watching it?
I had it on YouTube on my phone, so
Okay. I am consuming it like the worst way possible. I'm listening to it on Spotify because that's how
uh-huh,
I listen to everything at work. And it's terrible because they have it chopped it up into bits,
uh-huh.
like itty bitty bits. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. I like the rotating cast, like them in and out. It's neat and it's interesting so far.
Yeah, it
I'm
seems to
probably
be.
like about as far as you are at this point.
Uh-huh. It look, I think, Critical Role is just it's its own animal in a way, right? Because
It really is.
I don't want to say it's not an accurate portrayal of what role playing can be. I think it is absolutely a wonderful example of what role playing can be, but I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize, that entire cast are all actors professionally.
Well, yes, and like that's a professionally produced show at this point, and you know whether there's extreme writing or not. I know Brennan is a very serious writer, it's really a different beast than what you encounter in the wild as far as gaming. I just like it because it is. I don't know. It's kind of like professional wrestling, we'll say. How about that?
It,
Um,
I can see that. I,
so there's nothing that they're doing that I don't want to say there's nothing that they're doing that you couldn't do, but I don't know. They do that for a living. It's very exaggerated as far as the voice acting because they are all voice actors. They do all essentially work and do improv a lot of the time for the living. So that's, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just a dude that enjoys to play these hobbies. But I do like to listen to that really well produced version of it sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think to an extent it's like NFL versus, or actually MLB versus beer league softball.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's okay. No, softball and baseball technically aren't the same game. Well, they're close enough for our purposes, right?
We could yeah. I mean it's the difference between a scramble at the golf course and the PGA.
Yeah, it's yes, like you and I, we're enthusiasts, we're into this, but there's a difference between being a dedicated hobbyist and a professional because inherently, if you're using the skills to make your living, and especially like, acting is a gig economy, right? You get work by being good at what you do. So
Right.
I don't know how to say this other than it's, these are people doing what they're professionals at. And so I think it's a wonderful thing to look at for inspiration and to see what it can be, but it is not a standard that I don't think any table should hold themselves to as a comparison. That makes sense?
No. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. Um I don't know. I still like watching it though.
Oh, I campaign 3, I watched like the first episode or listened to the first episode and just went, I don't, I just didn't connect at all. Where
I
campaign
didn't with it.
4,
And 4 seems like I'm jived with the characters a lot better.
yes.
I'll tell you what I'm excited for. That Mighty Nine cartoon. They dropped a trailer a little while
Uh-huh.
back, and it is coming. It is coming
Cool.
soon. I am excited for that. I love Campaign 2, and can't wait to see what they do with that animated form. Um,
Hmm.
but that's enough gushing about Critical Role for now. I think we go ahead and move into Game of the Week.
Woohoo! Give it a week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
So, a while back, me and you had talked. You used to have bad movie nights in college.
Uh-huh. I know what you're picking
So I
because it
found
was
one.
one of the two that I put up is mine. At least I
Yep.
think I do.
Yep. So I am picking the phenomenal Plan 9 from Outer Space, the tabletop RPG.
That's where I thought you were going.
Yep. Uh, I adore the movie. It's so terrible. It's such a fun time.
Now,
Um,
has that
since
movie
we,
gone public domain? I'm just curious
I believe so,
because actually in the drive-through listing is a YouTube link
is the
to
movie.
the whole
Yeah,
movie,
I
and
believe it
Ed Wood
is public
Jr.
domain
is
at this point.
is credited as a writer in the RPG.
Good, 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 good. Um, but yeah, I need to. I'm gonna spend the $5, and I will report back
Cool.
because I
I
think
mean,
I have a table that would be chomping at the bits.
50s pulp sci-fi,
I, yeah,
and based on the two uh, ratings and the comments on it, people appear to. I mean, it hasn't been out for very long. It's only been out for like a week at this point, but like
yeah,
both comments that are on there are people kind of clamoring for a print-on-demand version, not just a PDF,
yeah,
which speaks well for it.
right, exactly. And the publisher is working on it, so excited. Gonna get that in my hands.
Yeah, Skirmisher Publishing, I think
Yeah.
that looks sound right.
What
Yeah,
do
it's
you
my
have?
screen says. Oh, I have. So I also found Plan 9, but I
Right.
figured if you saw that, you might take it. Um,
Okay.
so I found something else.
Let me ask, your game an OSR game?
Mm, Not expressly, let's put it that way.
Okay. Right.
Um,
I was worried because I was between Plan 9 and another one, and I was like, oh, I wonder if he picked my other game that I was going to pick.
that would be funny, right? So, you
Right?
remember a while back we had a conversation about what game would you use to play John Wick?
Yes.
Well, I found it.
Okay.
It's called You Killed My Dog, the game.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh,
This is specifically inspired by, it directly cites these, the John Wick series, The Equalizer, and First Blood. Now, I know nothing about this. I know nothing about the publisher, which is Socrates Ionovich Games. I think I'm pronouncing that properly. But it is, I mean, you play an operator, an operator, a lone force of skill and fury who just lost the last thing that mattered. Not a lover, not a partner, not a friend. Your dog.
no.
It says it has a
Yeah.
fast cinematic dice pool system, brutal wound system, heat mechanics, momentum. Apparently, it has a momentum system because it talks about momentum fueled stunts. Has at least 6 archetypes. Comes with it says an 8 scene like campaign thing in it. Has contact mechanics. I mean,
Yeah.
it's also designed for solo or group play.
Right.
And currently, it will set you back $10 for the 120 plus page PDF.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I figured, it just now it does say it contains AI generated content, which must be some of the artwork. I'm guessing the way it's listed, it was human created without AI, contains AI generated content. Now the image the only image shown is for the cover, and it's a very kind of black and white silhouette type image.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, make of that what you will, right? But You Killed My Dog, the game, just sounds tropey and fun.
Nice. Well, with all that being said, links to everything, as always, are in the show notes. Discord, Patreon, anywhere podcasts are found, you can always find us. And as always, be kind to one another and get out there and play some RPGs.
Yep. Take care, y'all.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at @andrpgs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast. On Discord at Me and Steve RPGs. And as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.